I watched the hospital director shake my hand and welcome me as the new chief nursing officer. Across the conference room, the three people who had framed me years earlier turned pale because they finally recognized my face. None of them knew I already carried a folder containing every lie, every forged report, and every stolen dollar that had destroyed my career. Before we begin, please like and subscribe. Now, get comfortable and enjoy. The morning everything changed began with the familiar scent of fresh coffee drifting through St. Victoria Medical Center. I had worked there for 8 years. Patients trusted me. Junior nurses copied my routines. Doctors requested me during difficult procedures because they knew I stayed calm under pressure. My name was Emily Carter. I believed hard work always revealed the truth. I was wrong. At exactly 8:17 that Tuesday morning, I signed for a shipment of controlled medications worth $83,000. Every vial required 2 signatures. Every barcode matched the inventory. I checked everything twice before locking the cabinet. That simple routine later became the weapon used against me. My supervisor, Linda Brooks, smiled unusually wide that afternoon. She wore expensive perfume with heavy vanilla notes, carried a brand new $4,000 designer handbag, and complimented my dedication 3 separate times. Something about her kindness felt rehearsed. I noticed. I remembered. But I ignored it. 3 days later, security officers entered the intensive care unit while I was changing an elderly patient's dressing. They asked me to follow them. Everyone stopped working. Nobody spoke. Inside the administrative office, the pharmacy director placed several printed inventory reports onto the polished oak table. 27 vials of fentanyl had disappeared. My electronic access code showed repeated unauthorized entries. My digital signature appeared on withdrawal forms I had never seen. I stared silently. The documents looked genuine. Every timestamp matched my work schedule. Every record pointed directly at me. Linda sighed dramatically before saying she never expected such betrayal from someone she had personally recommended for promotion. That sentence stayed with me for years. Not because it hurt. Because she delivered it too perfectly. Almost like an actress repeating lines she had memorized. Hospital investigators searched my locker. Inside they found unopened medication boxes supposedly missing from pharmacy inventory. I knew instantly they had been planted. The tape sealing the cartons had no fingerprints. The labels were perfectly aligned. Someone had prepared everything carefully. Police questioned me for 6 exhausting hours. I answered every question. I requested forensic testing. I demanded surveillance footage. The hospital attorney calmly explained that several security recordings had been accidentally overwritten during a software update occurring the same weekend. An unbelievable coincidence. Yet everyone accepted it. My nursing license was suspended pending investigation. Local news stations reported another trusted healthcare professional accused of stealing narcotics. Neighbors avoided eye contact. Friends stopped calling. Even my fiancé canceled our wedding 2 weeks later after quietly sliding my engagement ring across a restaurant table without looking directly into my eyes. He whispered that he believed innocent people did not attract this much evidence. Then he walked away forever. For 2 weeks, I barely left my small apartment except to meet my attorney. Every conversation ended the same way. The evidence looked overwhelming. The prosecution believed I would eventually accept a plea agreement. If I admitted guilt, I might avoid prison, but my nursing career would end forever. I refused. Something inside me stayed strangely calm. Not hopeful. Not angry. Simply cold. I spread every document across my dining table and examined each page for hours. Receipts. Access logs. Shift schedules. Security reports. Pharmacy inventories. Hundreds of pages covered every available surface. I highlighted every inconsistency using 3 different colors. Tiny details began speaking louder than dramatic accusations. The forged signatures were almost perfect. Almost. The lettering in my signature always curved upward before finishing with a small hook. The forged versions ended with a straight line. Someone had copied my name repeatedly without noticing that habit. That single difference became my starting point. My attorney appreciated the observation but warned that handwriting alone would never convince a jury. We needed something undeniable. So I began investigating the investigators. Every public record became useful. Hospital board meeting minutes. Procurement contracts. Budget approvals. Vendor payments. Insurance claims. Most people never read those documents. I read every page. 3 weeks later, one financial report caught my attention. The hospital had approved an emergency contract worth $2,480,000 for a medication inventory software upgrade. The approval happened only 4 days before the surveillance system supposedly failed. The company receiving the contract had existed for less than 7 months. Its office occupied a tiny suite above a closed laundromat. That made no sense. I searched corporate registration records. The owner was listed as a man named Daniel Pierce. The name meant nothing. Until I opened his social media profile. There stood Daniel at a charity gala beside Linda Brooks. They smiled like lifelong friends. Another photograph showed them celebrating New Year's Eve together with the pharmacy director, Mark Ellis. Hospital policy required executives to disclose personal relationships involving vendors. No disclosure existed. Interesting. Very interesting. Instead of confronting anyone, I stayed invisible. People underestimated unemployed women. That mistake became my greatest advantage. Over the following months, I accepted temporary office jobs during the day and spent every evening building timelines. Every payment. Every meeting. Every promotion. Every suspicious decision connected another thread. The pattern became impossible to ignore. The missing medications had never been the objective. They were the distraction. Someone had been stealing millions through fake technology contracts, inflated pharmaceutical purchases, and shell companies. Framing one nurse created the perfect headline while auditors focused elsewhere. I was never the target because I made mistakes. I was the target because I noticed details. Then an unexpected phone call changed everything. It came from Olivia Sanders, a pharmacist who had resigned shortly after my suspension. Her voice trembled. She apologized before saying she had remained silent out of fear. Then she told me something I had suspected from the beginning. The medication boxes planted inside my locker had been moved there after midnight by someone using a master security badge. Only 5 employees possessed that level of access. Linda Brooks was one of them. For the first time in months, I smiled. Not because justice had arrived. Because the hunt had finally become interesting. Olivia refused to speak over the telephone again. She insisted we meet somewhere nobody from the hospital would recognize either of us. We chose a quiet family diner 40 miles outside the city. The booths were old. The coffee tasted burnt. The waitress called everyone sweetheart. It was exactly the kind of place where people stopped paying attention after the first minute. Olivia arrived carrying a faded blue folder. She placed it on the table without a word. Inside were printed emails, handwritten notes, and copies of maintenance logs she had secretly collected before resigning. One email immediately caught my attention. Linda had instructed the Information Technology Department to grant temporary administrative access to the security system during the exact weekend the surveillance footage supposedly disappeared. Temporary access. Permanent consequences. Another document listed maintenance work that had never actually happened. Someone had signed completion certificates for equipment inspections that were impossible because the machines had still been operating with outdated software weeks later. The signatures belonged to Daniel Pierce. The same vendor receiving millions. Olivia admitted she had overheard Linda and Mark arguing inside the pharmacy office one evening. Mark wanted to stop manipulating inventory records because outside auditors had requested another inspection. Linda laughed and told him that one frightened nurse would absorb every accusation if anything ever surfaced. That frightened nurse was me. I recorded Olivia's entire statement with her written permission. Then I stored 3 encrypted copies. One remained with my attorney. One stayed inside a bank safe deposit box. One rested on a secure cloud account using 2-factor authentication. Nobody would erase this evidence. Not this time. My attorney filed motions demanding access to financial records connected with every technology contract approved during the previous 3 years. The hospital fought aggressively. Their attorneys claimed the requests were irrelevant. The judge disagreed. Within weeks, thousands of pages arrived. Numbers never lied. People did. Payments flowed through 6 different companies before returning to accounts controlled by Daniel Pierce. From there, large transfers disappeared into investment funds owned by relatives of Linda Brooks and Mark Ellis. The fraud exceeded $12 million. Suddenly, my criminal case became much less interesting than the growing financial investigation. State auditors entered the hospital without warning. Federal healthcare investigators requested additional records. News reporters gathered outside the emergency entrance every morning. Executives stopped smiling. Linda continued pretending everything remained under control. She even appeared on local television promising complete transparency. Watching her perform was almost impressive. Almost. Behind closed doors, panic spread through the administration. Employees quietly contacted investigators. Anonymous emails flooded regulatory agencies. Former vendors revealed inflated invoices. Former accountants described impossible budget approvals. The wall of silence began cracking. Then another surprise arrived. The chairman of the hospital board resigned overnight. His resignation letter mentioned personal reasons. Investigators later discovered those personal reasons included accepting expensive vacations, luxury watches, and cash disguised as consulting fees. Every new revelation strengthened my case. 6 months after losing my license, the prosecutor requested a meeting. His attitude had completely changed. He admitted serious concerns now existed regarding the original investigation. He asked whether I would cooperate with the expanding corruption inquiry. I looked directly into his eyes. Then I quietly answered yes. Not because I trusted him. Because I wanted every person who destroyed my life to face the truth in a courtroom where excuses finally stopped working forever. From that day forward, my life became strangely divided. During the mornings, I met investigators inside secure government offices. During the afternoons, I worked temporary administrative jobs to pay rent. Every evening, I reviewed evidence until midnight. Exhaustion became normal, but purpose kept me moving. The investigation expanded faster than anyone expected. Federal forensic accountants reconstructed thousands of electronic transactions. Digital experts recovered deleted emails from backup servers the hospital believed had been permanently erased. Phone records placed Linda, Mark, and Daniel together repeatedly before every suspicious contract approval. The timeline became impossible to challenge. One afternoon, an investigator placed a thick binder in front of me. Inside were photographs of luxury homes, sports cars, private club memberships, and overseas vacations secretly funded with stolen hospital money. Patients struggled to pay medical bills while executives purchased beachfront property. That truth made the betrayal even worse. Nearly 11 months after my arrest, the prosecutor dismissed every criminal charge against me. The judge ordered an official declaration of innocence. My nursing license was immediately restored. News stations that once displayed my photograph beside the words "suspected drug theft" now broadcast another headline. Wrongfully accused nurse cleared. The apology sounded hollow. It could not return the months I had lost. It could not repair broken friendships. It certainly could not erase the memory of my fiancé abandoning me without waiting for the truth. I never called him. He called me. 3 times. I ignored every message. Some doors should never reopen. The corruption trial began 4 months later. The courtroom remained packed every single day. Reporters filled every available seat. Former employees testified one after another. Auditors explained complex financial fraud using detailed charts. Technology experts demonstrated exactly how electronic records had been manipulated. Then it became my turn. I walked calmly toward the witness stand. Linda refused to look at me. Mark stared at the table. Daniel kept whispering to his attorneys. I answered every question clearly. No anger. No dramatic speeches. Only facts. My attorney displayed enlarged copies of the forged signatures. Forensic handwriting specialists explained every difference. Security experts confirmed that my personal access card had been electronically cloned. Financial investigators traced every stolen dollar. Finally, Olivia described watching evidence being planted inside my locker. Silence filled the courtroom. The jury watched Linda carefully. For the first time since this nightmare began, confidence disappeared from her face. After 8 exhausting weeks, the verdict arrived. Guilty on every major count. Fraud. Evidence tampering. Conspiracy. Wire fraud. Obstruction of justice. Sentencing followed 1 month later. Combined prison terms exceeded 40 years. Assets worth more than $14 million were seized. Luxury homes disappeared. Investment accounts were frozen. Vehicles were auctioned. Every professional license was permanently revoked. When the judge finished reading the sentence, Linda finally looked at me. She expected satisfaction. Instead, she found complete indifference. Hatred would have kept me connected to her. I preferred freedom. 2 years later, an international healthcare organization recruited me to lead patient safety programs across multiple hospitals. Ironically, one of those facilities acquired St. Victoria Medical Center after the corruption scandal forced its owners into bankruptcy. The board invited me to return. Not as a nurse. As the hospital's new chief nursing officer. The same office where my nightmare had begun became the place where justice quietly completed its circle. Walking back through the front entrance felt strangely ordinary. The marble floor still reflected the ceiling lights. The volunteer at the reception desk still offered visitors directions with a warm smile. The scent of antiseptic and fresh linen still floated through the corridors. Everything looked familiar, yet everything had changed. This time, I carried an executive identification badge. Employees stood when I entered the boardroom. The directors introduced me as the leader responsible for rebuilding trust after the largest corruption scandal in the hospital's history. I thanked them briefly. Then I made my expectations unmistakably clear. Every financial approval would require multiple independent reviews. Every controlled medication movement would be tracked through biometric verification instead of simple access cards. Anonymous reporting systems would protect employees from retaliation. Outside auditors would rotate every year. No executive, including me, would receive exceptions. Some people looked uncomfortable. That was exactly the point. Trust should never depend on personalities. It should depend on systems. Within 6 months, medication errors declined significantly. Patient satisfaction reached record levels. Staff turnover dropped. Whistleblowers who had once remained silent now spoke without fear because they knew every complaint would receive a documented investigation. The culture slowly changed. One afternoon, I visited the intensive care unit where I had spent so many years caring for strangers. Several younger nurses recognized my name from the news. One quietly asked how I survived being falsely accused without giving up. I smiled. Then I answered with complete honesty. The hardest part was not losing my job. It was refusing to lose myself. When people attack your reputation, they hope you will destroy your own future through anger, desperation, or revenge without discipline. I chose patience instead. Facts move slowly. But they arrive with tremendous force. Months later, I attended a healthcare ethics conference as the keynote speaker. After my presentation, dozens of professionals approached to share stories about workplace intimidation, hidden corruption, and false accusations they had experienced. Many believed nobody would ever listen. I encouraged every one of them to document everything. Save emails. Keep receipts. Record dates. Protect evidence before emotions. Truth becomes powerful when it is organized. As the years passed, my life grew quieter. I purchased a comfortable home overlooking a peaceful lake. On weekends, I drank coffee on the porch while watching the sunrise instead of rushing toward another crisis. I volunteered at nursing schools, mentoring students who reminded me why I had entered healthcare in the first place. My past no longer defined me. It simply reminded me how strong integrity becomes when tested. Sometimes justice arrives loudly. Sometimes it arrives patiently. Either way, it eventually finds those who mistake power for protection. The people who framed me believed they had buried an innocent nurse forever. Instead, they unknowingly built the path that led me back stronger, wiser, and impossible to silence. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Let me know in the comments what you would have done.